Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into AbbVie.
AbbVie, ticker symbol ABBV.
That's right, ABBV, to see if this pharmaceutical giant deserves a spot in your portfolio.
It should be interesting for sure.
For sure, and we've got all the goods to help us decide.
Yeah.
We've got analyst reports, financial data,
Lay it on me.
and even a look at their recent acquisition spree.
Well, let's get into it then.
Let's. And trust me, this spree is impressive. Think billions of dollars flying around.
Oh, billions, huh?
Billions. Now, analysts seem pretty optimistic about AbbVie's future, but there's a little catch about their track record that we need to unpack.
Oh, there's always a catch.
Plus, their star drug, Humira,
Yeah, Humira.
it's facing some serious competition, which makes their recent acquisitions even more intriguing.
Makes sense.
So, is AbbVie adapting well enough to thrive in this changing landscape? That's the million-dollar question we're here to answer.
Love it.
But first, a little history lesson.
Sounds good.
AbbVie isn't exactly a newbie on the block, is it?
No, not at all.
So where do they come from?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that they're actually a spin-off from another big name in pharmaceuticals.
Can you give us a hint?
Think. A company known for a wide range of healthcare products.
Okay, is it Abbott Laboratories?
You got it. AbbVie branched off from Abbott back in 2013.
So they've got some serious pedigree behind them.
Definitely.
Pedigree aside, let's get down to brass tacks.
Let's do it.
How's their financial health looking these days?
Well, according to Zacks, their cash flow is pretty solid, around $15.81 per share.
Cash flow, that's good, right?
Exactly. Cash is king, right? Strong cash flow gives a company flexibility,
Full what?
to invest in research, make acquisitions, pay dividends, all those things that can drive growth.
Got it. Cash flow equals options.
Pretty much.
Okay, but what's the overall outlook for their stock?
Well, Zacks gives them a ranking of 3 out of 5,
Yeah.
where 1 is a strong buy and 5 is a strong sell.
A3, so middle of the road.
Yeah, basically means hold.
So that means,
In the short term, at least, their stock is expected to perform in line with the general market. Not necessarily skyrocket, but not plummet either.
okay, got it. Hold it.
But there's another interesting detail. Their value score is a B.
Okay, now what does that tell us?
It suggests that their stock might be a bit underpriced compared to their fundamentals, a potential bargain for value-focused investors.
Ooh, a bargain. Now you got my attention.
Yeah, we're talking.
But let's be real, we can't ignore the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Humira. It's their golden goose, their blockbuster drug.
True.
But there's this thing called a patent cliff, right? What's the deal with that?
You're right. Humira has been a cash cow for AbbVie, but its patent protection is expiring.
So what does that mean?
It means they're facing competition from biosimilars. Think of them as generic versions of Humira, but cheaper.
Oh, so that's going to eat into their profits.
Exactly. It could seriously impact their market share.
So this is where those acquisitions you mentioned come into play, right?
You got it. It's like they're playing chess, anticipating the next move.
Strategizing.
Exactly. So according to Traxnan, they've made a whopping 15 acquisitions.
15.
Yep, and each averaging around $9 billion.
Wow, 15 acquisitions, each at $9 billion. That's a bold move. It's like they're building a whole new army to combat this patent cliff.
That's a great way to put it.
So tell me, what are some of the most recent companies they've scooped up?
Well, just this year, in 2024, they acquired Aliada Therapeutics for a cool $1.4 billion.
Aliada Therapeutics, okay.
What's intriguing about Aliada is their focus on a wider range of treatments.
Not just the Humira market.
Right, they're branching out into things like autoimmune disorders.
So diversification's the name of the game.
Exactly, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket anymore.
Smart move.
And that's not all. They've also snapped up Celsius Therapeutics and Landos Biopharma.
Celsius and Landos, okay. Tell me more.
Well, Celsius is all about using cutting-edge genomics to develop new therapies.
So the future of medicine.
Exactly, and Landos is focused on treatments for inflammatory diseases.
I see a pattern here, strengthening their position in areas that could potentially fill the gap left by Humira.
You're picking up what we're putting down.
It's like they're not just reacting, they're strategically building for the future.
Exactly. They're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, let's see what the analysts think about all of this. We've got some data from TipRanks, right?
We do, and the consensus seems to be cautiously optimistic.
Cautious, but optimistic.
Yeah, the average price target from analysts is around $205. Which suggests a potential upside of 12% from where the stock is trading now.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
But are all analysts singing the same tune? Are there any skeptics out there?
Well, like with anything, there are always some variations in opinions.
Naturally.
And it's worth pointing out that not all analysts have been spot on with their AbbVie predictions lately.
Ah, so we need to take those predictions with a grain of salt.
Exactly. But there are some analysts, like Mohit Bansal from Wells Fargo, who have had a pretty impressive track record. Like over 87% of their recommendations turning profitable in the past year.
87%, that's pretty good. So it sounds like it's crucial to do your own research and weigh the credibility of different analysts before jumping on the bandwagon.
Absolutely. Don't just blindly follow anyone's advice, especially when it comes to your hard-earned money.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we jump into the pros and cons of investing in AbbVie,
Sounds good.
let's take a quick break to catch our breath. We'll be right back to continue this deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, we're back and ready to keep digging into AbbVie.
You bet.
We've covered their history, their financials.
Their acquisitions.
Yeah, those major acquisitions. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay, shoot.
For someone like me, or anyone really, thinking about adding AbbVie to their portfolio,
Yeah.
what are the main pros and cons?
That's the question, isn't it? Well, let's start with the good stuff.
All right, hit me with the positives.
Well, one big plus is their dividend history.
Dividends, always a good thing.
Definitely a draw for income-focused investors.
Right, that steady stream of income can be really appealing.
Yeah, it's like getting a little bonus just for owning the stock.
Exactly. So, solid dividend history, that's a big check mark in the pro column.
It is.
But beyond dividends, what else makes AbbVie attractive?
Well, they're not afraid to make big moves, you know? Like with those acquisitions.
Yeah, true. They're not just sitting around waiting for things to happen.
Right. They're actively adapting and trying to stay ahead of the game, shows they're proactive and not afraid to shake things up.
I like that, a company that's willing to take risks.
Exactly.
But those acquisitions, they're not cheap, right?
True enough. Every rose has its thorns.
So let's flip the coin.
That's terrible.
What are the potential downsides of investing in AbbVie?
Well, the Humira situation is still a major concern.
Right, even with the new acquisitions.
Yeah, it's still a big chunk of their revenue.
And those biosimilars are coming in hot.
Yeah, the competition is fierce. And it's uncertain how much those new acquisitions can really offset the potential losses from Humira.
So Humira dependence, that's a risk.
Definitely something to keep in mind.
Any other red flags investors should be aware of?
Well, looking at some of their financials, it seems like growth might be slowing down in certain areas.
Not ideal.
And the acquisitions, while strategically smart, they are costly.
Yeah, billions of dollars flying around.
Exactly. And there's always the risk they won't deliver the expected returns.
It's a gamble, no doubt about it.
It is. Integrating those new companies can be complex.
And expensive.
Exactly. It's not always a smooth process.
All right, so we've got potential and we've got risks.
That's investing for you.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that's becoming more and more important to investors these days.
What's that?
ESG factors.
Oh, yeah. ESG, big topics.
Stands for environmental, social, and governance.
Right. Investors are really starting to pay attention to a company's ethical practices and sustainability efforts.
It's not just about profits anymore.
Absolutely. It's about investing in companies that align with your values.
So where does AbbVie stand on the whole ESG front?
Well, that's a good question. And to be honest, it deserves a deeper dive of its own.
Maybe we'll do that in another episode.
Could be interesting.
But in a nutshell, what can you tell us about their ESG performance?
Well, AbbVie has made some commitments to sustainability, but there's always room for improvement.
Like most companies, I imagine.
Right. They've received both praise and criticism for their environmental and social practices.
So a mixed bag.
You could say that.
Okay, so something for potential investors to definitely research further.
Absolutely. It's worth digging into.
Now, as we start to wrap up this AbbVie deep dive, what are your final thoughts for our listeners? What key takeaways should they remember?
Well, I think the biggest thing to remember is that AbbVie is a company in transition.
In transition.
Yeah. They're facing challenges, but they're also actively adapting and trying to shape their future.
Right, they're not just sitting still.
Exactly. And their strong cash flow, their attractive valuation.
And those proactive acquisitions.
All those things are definite positives.
They are, but those positives come with some risks.
For sure.
Especially the Humira dependence.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And the uncertainty surrounding those big acquisitions.
You hit the nail on the head. It's crucial to weigh both sides carefully before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely. No investment is a sure thing.
It's true. It's like trying to predict the weather.
You never know for sure.
But with enough information and careful analysis, you can at least make a more informed decision.
Exactly. Knowledge is power,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to investing.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, folks, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into AbbVie.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We sure have. From their history and financials to their big acquisition strategy and those all-important ESG factors.
Lots to think about.
Definitely. But hopefully we've given you a good overview of this pharma giant and whether it might be a good fit for your own portfolio.
Absolutely. It's all about making informed decisions.
Couldn't agree more. But remember, this is just a starting point.
Right. Do your own research.
Dig into those financials. Consider your investment goals, your risk tolerance, all of that good stuff.
And don't forget about those ESG factors. More and more investors are incorporating those into their decisions.
Absolutely. Aligning your investments with your values is becoming increasingly important.
It is.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into AbbVie. We hope you found it helpful.
We did our best.
And remember, we've got tons more deep dives, market insights, and investing tips over on our YouTube channel.
So be sure to check it out.
And hey, while you're there, drop a comment below and let us know what stocks or topics you'd like us to cover next.
We love hearing from you guys.
We do. Your feedback helps us make the show even better.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. And until next time, happy investing.
See you next time.